Hello, I am your Retro Addict, and welcome to episode 2 of Things Your Kids Should Know About But Don't. Today we will be discussing electronics, more specifically VCRs and VHS tapes. Don't get me wrong, I love DVDs. They're lightweight, they fit on a shelf in greater quantities, and most of them come with special features like subtitles, chapter selection, and behind-the-scenes footage. What's not to like about them?
Disc read error. Disc read error.
A little history may be in order. My father bought me my first VCR back in 1984. Not that 1984. Back then, remote controls were in their infancy, and the items that came with them, TVs, VCRs, and stereo equipment, were usually on the higher end of the pricing spectrum. My VCR came with a remote control, but it plugged into the front of the deck and was attached by a wire.
Okay, time to watch some videos.
Oh, that's convenient. One of the first VHS tapes I owned was WrestleMania 3. My father bought it for me when I was at home sick. I lost the case for it years ago, but I still own the tape to this day. What? Lost it? Well, what do you mean lost it? I need it for the shot. What, in the move? What do you mean we lost it in the move? That can't be possible. Son of a... Well, the tape, when I did have it, came in a clamshell case, kind of like this one I have here. As you can see, the case is about 10% larger than the tape itself. I mean, look at it. It's a beast. Believe it or not, there were cases larger than these. If stored correctly, VHS tapes will hold up for decades. They have a plastic shell on the outside that protects the tape on the inside, making them very durable. I'd be willing to bet you can drop one off the second-story balcony and it wouldn't take too much damage.
And the tape is pretty much intact. Durable. Very durable.
VHS tapes were very portable as well, making it easy to take one or several over to your friend's house for a movie marathon. Hey hon, I'm going to Phillips. I got 4 seasons of The Simpsons here. I'll see you later. Before VHS, there was reel-to-reel 16mm and slide projectors. 16mm didn't have the best quality in the world, and the other two were just plain bulky. Also, slide projectors were only used for still images. There were a couple of systems that were released to consumers between the early 60s and late 70s, but they didn't sell well as they were cost prohibitive. Around 1977, JVC entered the market and really made an impact. Their system was reasonably priced and had media that would record in 1-hour and 2-hour blocks of time, making it perfect for feature-length movies. Lord of the Rings, however, hold them upright, would have to wait until much later. Of course, no new technology would be complete without its detractors. Jack Valenti, then president of the Motion Picture Association of America, you know, the movie rating people, decried the VCR as savagery and compared its effects on the film industry to the Boston Strangler. At last check, however, Hollywood is still alive, albeit on life support, but that has nothing to do with VCRs and more to do with Hollywood's insistence on making remakes and sequels that nobody asked for and weren't needed in most cases. Despite the opposition of Valenti and its other detractors, the VCR became one of the most popular pieces of technology in America. Almost everyone that owned a TV had a VCR sitting next to that TV. Another piece of technology VHS revolutionized was consumer cameras or camcorders. As I said earlier, before VHS, most homes had 16mm cameras, which got the job done, but had lousy quality compared to VHS. Just think of the Zapruder tapes and you'll understand what I'm talking about. I still remember my father walking around the house taping everybody when he got his brand new JVC camcorder. While this type of camera didn't take VHS tapes, it used a format called VHS-C that once recorded could be played back on a VCR using a VHS adapter tape. No wires, no fuss, no muss. VCRs were innovative for their time, as you could buy blank media and program your VCR to record a certain channel at a certain time. Sounds a little like DVR today, doesn't it? Some of the more high-end models had the ability to queue up to a certain part of the tape, a very primitive form of chapter selection that was at more times than not a miss more than a hit. Several hundred different models of VCR came out back in the day, but only a few were noticeably different outside of what features came with it. There was the top loader, which was primarily used on earlier models, the front loader, which was the most common, and finally the TV VCR combo. I happen to still own one of these. The TV VCR combo was great because you didn't have to buy two separate pieces of equipment, and there were no wires except for the one power cord. Some flat screens are like this today, having DVD players built into them in lieu of the VCR. My roommate has one. The single biggest problem with TV VCR combos, and I would assume their modern day counterparts, is that once one part is broke, usually the TV, the whole thing was shot, as it was usually an expensive proposition to get them repaired. One of the quirky things about VCRs was the clock. You would need a team of engineers just to get the damn thing to stop flashing, and if you did manage that feat, you better hope the power doesn't go out anytime soon. There are literally thousands of titles in the VHS library. At the height of my collection, I had over 200 titles. I have since transferred the majority of them over to DVD and either disposed of or gave away the majority of them. Despite this, I still have 2 boxes of tapes in my closet. The effects of VHS and VCR could be felt in the media up to modern day programming. Back to the Future portrayed Marty McFly taping Doc's unveiling of his time machine with a JVC VHS-C camcorder. Kevin Smith's first movie, Clerks, portrayed Randall, a small-town video store clerk who, despite working in a video store, wanted to go to the big chain video store across town. The Ring had a VHS tape as its centerpiece, as those who watched the mysterious tape would get a phone call telling them how many days they had left to live. In 1981, a little channel on the cable boxes stated, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll." With that declarative statement, MTV was born, and the first video to play was called "Video Killed the Radio Star" by the Buggles. Yes, believe it or not, kids, MTV actually played music videos at one time. That video marked the end of an era, as video paved the way for many artists who otherwise may not have achieved success or national exposure. Film was expensive, and videotapes were cheap. The song also laments the fact that many musical careers would be eclipsed prematurely. If you have ever heard the term, "he has a face made for radio," then you know what the song was driving at. Many people had the talent for music but would not be easily marketable. I'm not sure how true that statement is, or was, but I believe people are more understanding than this song gave credit. Whatever you take from Video Killed the Radio Star's meaning, there's no doubt that it kicked off a revolution thanks to VHS and MTV. In 1985, a small video store opened up in Dallas, Texas, and quickly became the household name in video rentals. That store, of course, everybody knows, was called Blockbuster Video. Sure, you had neighborhood video stores, but Blockbuster Video had 3 things going for it. The first being a prophetic name. The old term blockbuster was used in real estate a long time ago for someone who would come into a neighborhood, buy a house or two, and sell to less than desirable buyers. This would essentially bring the property values of all the other houses in the neighborhood down, making it cheaper for the original buyer to go in and buy the other houses for pennies on the dollar. While Blockbuster didn't do that exactly, when they would come into the neighborhood, all of the other video stores within their reach would be closed up shortly thereafter. They just couldn't compete with them. The second thing that they did differently was they became a national chain, spanning the country and some parts of the globe. They were the first video store to be able to compete on a massive scale. This would give them a distinct advantage, as they were able to get discounted prices from their production houses for buying in bulk. This also enabled them to give their guarantee that the movie would be there on the shelf when you went in to rent it. Finally, they eliminated the seediness of the common neighborhood video stores. Let me paint you a picture. Neighborhood video stores, at least where I grew up, and I would assume where most of you grew up, were small storefronts in a strip mall somewhere, with one window in front, maybe. That would be plastered with movie posters of the new releases. They were usually poorly lit, with some corners being positively dark, dark enough to where you couldn't even see the videotapes sitting right in front of you. And they usually had a small walk-in closet that would be separated from the main room so that younger audiences wouldn't see what was in there. Scary. I'm of course talking about pornography. Blockbuster Video turned this business model on its head. While some stores were in strip malls, they were usually standalone stores. When they were in the strip malls, they weren't sandwiched in between two stores. No, they were on the corner location with windows that would wrap around the front all the way around to the side, letting enough light in to make it visible from across the street. They added more lighting to eliminate any dark spots in the store, and they opted against carrying pornography, making them a more family-friendly video store. This was an angle they ran with for many years, making them the #1 video store in the country. While other chains like Hollywood Video and West Coast Video up in the Northeast would mimic the format and try to compete, nobody ever, and I mean ever, really held a candle to Blockbuster. Like Blockbuster, VHS had its competitors over the years. Back in the late 70s into early 80s, Betamax gave VHS a run for its money. While many factors played a part in cementing VHS as the videotape of choice, the two main ones were recording times and marketing strategies. VHS had the better marketing. Beta was the better quality tape, but it only recorded in 1-hour blocks of time. Beta did find a home, however, as many television studios started taping their shows on Beta. Laserdisc came around in the late 80s and did itself in. With discs as big as standard records, technology for another show, Laserdisc did catch on, somewhat. It still has die-hard collectors to this day. However, when they first were released, they came with a hefty price tag, as well as the systems that played them. On top of that, VHS had been around for going on 10 years, and people just weren't ready to transfer all of those VHS tapes that they had bought to a new medium. So what went wrong? With so many possibilities and popularity, how could they have taken a fall? It all comes down to technology. Technology is always improving, and where Laserdisc failed, DVD got it right about 10 years later. If you have never heard of DVDs, come watch this video again when you're out of diapers. The players and the media were modestly priced. They were capable of holding more information than VHS ever dreamed of, and like I said at the beginning of the video, they have additional features. Being an analog format is what did VHS in. Some movies would have documentaries or behind-the-scenes clips, but you would have to wait until after the credits, and fast-forwarding or rewinding to get to a certain point was usually a tedious process. Despite their waning popularity, VHS did manage to stick around well into the digital age, with video stores still renting them but shoving them off into a corner, like those old arcade games that once had the limelight but were now all but forgotten. We have witnessed, in one generation, the birth, heyday, and all but extinction of the VHS tapes, VCRs, and video stores. Yes, video stores as well. While they were trying to stay relevant with DVD, they just could not compete with companies like On Demand, Netflix, or Redbox. Consumers having the ability to comb through thousands of titles from the comfort of their living room was a no contest. There are no video stores in my area anymore. In the past 3 years, I have seen 2 Blockbuster Videos shut their doors. It's a shame, too, because I really miss getting off from a hard week's work and saying, hey, let's go rent a video. Not really knowing what I was going to rent, just the experience of going somewhere with like-minded individuals and asking a perfect stranger if they thought a movie was any good. I know technology will keep advancing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about DVD like this in 5 to 10 more years. With digital media, I don't doubt it. As we look to the future of entertainment, it's always good to remember where it all came from. Until next time, be kind, rewind, and now you know what you should about VHS and VCRs.